All right, we're back, and for a very short time. It's COMP308 in the winter 2017 semester, and it's week 9, part 3 of our broadcast at Centennial. I'm going to make this nice and short, so we're not going to record more than another 10 minutes or so. So next week, so I'm having trouble with this. Live coding is what it is, right? Which is totally fine. We're going to get this working. At least we're part of the way there. We can kind of root through, or we're not retrieving any data, which is a negative. However, I'm feeling that we're very close. There's just some kind of minor bug, either in my code or something that I've been doing. So what we're going to do is this. We're going to finish CRUD next week for Angular, which is okay. It won't take us long. After we get over this hurdle, the rest will come very quickly. Once we've got that done, I want to talk about Firebase as an alternative backend to the whole mean stack. So instead of Mongo, Express, Angular, and Node, well, instead of mean, it'll be called Fiend with an F, right? Because we can use Firebase, Express, Angular, and Node, right, as an awesome backend. Now, if we can't get Angular working by next week, which is totally fine, remember that Angular will be optional for your final project. Your final project will come next week. So please, if you don't have your partners already, please partner up. This is going to be a 3 or 4 person gig. It'll not be something that you can do on your own very easily. If you're someone who likes to work on their own, however, and you're insistent, I'm not going to say no. However, it's going to be quite a big one. I mean, it's worth, just the project itself is going to be worth at least 30% of your final grade, plus the presentation at the end, because that's part of your, essential employability skills we have to kind of train, right? When it comes to PowerPoint presentations, how to present properly, what to say, what not to say. You're going to be judged on that. So that's part of the things that we're doing, and it's going to be worth the majority of your grade. So please, next week, whatever you do, please, decide on who your partners are going to be. Don't wait till the last minute. Start talking about it now. I can show you a bit of a preview of what it's going to look like because I already have it. I already had it done for many moons ago. We're just going to modify it for this semester because I modify it slightly every time. So the final team project, if I do things correctly, looks like, yeah, something like this. It's my document that I did. Okay, so it's kind of like this. Okay, it's probably going to be worth more like 10, 10, and 10, right? So for for a total of 30, there probably won't be a part 4. It's only going to be a 3-parter, right? That's what I'm probably going to go to. But more or less, from a what you're building perspective, you're going to have a chance to build 3 different sites. There's going to be a survey site that you can build, right? Where when you do a survey site, like, basically you're asking survey questions, right? Like Survey Monkey, right? Like that kind of thing is what you're building out. So it's kind of big. A bracket or tournament style site, right? And whenever I think of that, I always think of challenge, right? Because that's one that I kind of go with. This is kind of cool. You have these brackets. And what you can do with it is you have these 2 opponents, and then one of these guys win, or girls, and they're over here. And then you can have, kind of the brackets of who wins, who's in first place, who's in second place, who's in third place. What you do is you have a set of combatants or teams, or however you want to put it. And then depending on which points they get, there's a clear winner, and that winner passes to the next bout. Okay, so kind of some kind of tournament style site. Again, I'm using challenge as a sample of what we can do. And I encourage you to sign up and see how they do it, and maybe get some ideas if you're interested in doing this kind of thing. The other option is, and I'm going to talk about more next week, an incident management website. Incident management is the most difficult one, has lots and lots of piece parts, requires authentication. And what you're doing is you're creating almost like a mock-up or a prototype of a support site, a ticket management site for, let's say, something that has a problem, right? There are other options as well. I have some other selections, but there's going to be more like 3 or 4 of these options. You cannot just choose whatever you feel like for a couple of reasons. When I let students run away wild with their aspirations, they don't finish their project, right? Or they make such a large project that they cannot finish it, even if they want to. It's a great project, a great idea, but they just only have 4 weeks, and they try in 4 weeks to make it something that's bigger than a capstone, right? Which is just undoable. So, think about this. Again, it's going to be up to 4 people, like it says here. This isn't going to change. And like it says here, you're going to use your knowledge of the mean stack where AngularJS is an optional front end, okay? I'm not going to force you to use AngularJS because of this complexity that we're facing today, as a good example, or the complexity you guys faced last week when you tried to do your lab, Tour of Heroes, right? I'm not going to force you, but if you are able to make Angular work, I will give you a bonus. That's why it's an optional front end, okay? So keep that in mind. That's coming next week. Remember that I'm also going to be talking about Firebase and Ionic over the next couple weeks, right? And there's some really good examples because we've already done, here's Ionic. We've already done Angular to some degree. Ionic is the mobile application framework using Angular, and I think it's great, and Cordova, right? So if you look at the introduction to Ionic, what you get, how the pages look. Let's talk about the tutorial here just really quickly. It's coming. There'll be another little tutorial for you to do. Here's your project structure. And I want you to see what this looks like. What does this look like to you, right? Exactly what we're doing right now with Angular, right? So I think this is a great opportunity for us to, take a look at this and, see how they're doing this kind of stuff. I mean, once you get familiar with Angular, the idea of an ng module as something that you're bootstrapping, the way that Ionic puts things together to create a mobile application is very similar to what you've seen before. Okay, so stuff that's coming up, Ionic. I won't spend too much time on this. It'll be like, half a day kind of thing we'll spend on this thing, and a little bit on Firebase. So there'll be like one day on Ionic and Firebase combined, right? So here's Firebase. We talked about Firebase as well. Firebase is a great backend, and I'm going to show you a little brief on what you can do with Firebase. You can set up a platform for iOS and Android and the web and C++ and Unity and a bunch of other ones. And as an example, you can set this up for free on Google Cloud Platform, right? And here's a sample My Node project that I already have running. And on the back end, from a database perspective, I already have these games set up. Here we go. Take a look what this looks like. An array, right? And that's the way you'll be reading it. The great thing about Firebase is it does authentication, database, storage. If you want to store pictures and all that kind of stuff, it's really cool. Hosting, all kinds of other stuff, notifications, and everything is free. So I think it's a great opportunity for you guys to check this out. That's why I want to talk about it. Then we'll get right into microservices over the next couple weeks after that. And then finishing off with Ophelia Has His Way with Docker, right? So that's what we're going to end up with, and which is a kind of a great way to end up this course. Again, we're week 9, week 10, week 11, week 12, week 13, and then the final week is presentations. So that we only have a few weeks left, 4 weeks left, let's say, of teaching, and then 1 week of presentation. Remember that when you have your presentation or your project, I'm going to be checking you pretty much every week to see how you're doing. All right, so be prepared for that kind of check and X kind of exercise. I'm going to be looking at your team. I'm going to be monitoring you. So it's not going to be just pure teaching during that time. All right. Any questions of the stuff we did today? I know that was kind of, for some of you, frustrating, right? And you're like, how do you have patience? It's part of it, right? One thing we learned today was how to get our API, our JSON API, read at a node, which is pretty awesome. It's just a matter of us, how do we consume it with the service? Okay, so we're going to fix that, and we'll come back next week and finish up full credit. Okay, any questions? Thank you so much. See you next week, guys.